Now broadcasting from the EFX Sports Studio, it's ESPN EFX Sports Radio with Dr. Jeff Galini.
Well, welcome to another episode of EFX Sports Radio. My name is Dr. Jeff Galini, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Brian Andrews.
Hello, everybody from California.
California and Billings, man. It's a nice, well, it's not a nice day here today, but, you know, that's how it is in the fall.
It's a great day to be alive, I'll tell you that, man. It is clear skies, blue, about 65 degrees.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, you know, it's nice in the studio here. We got sunshine and, 70. But I'm excited, man. I got a friend of mine, a special guest today, Mr. Jeff Ballard with us. Jeff, how you doing?
Good, Jeff. Great to be here. It's nice to bring someone in local.
Yeah.
Local.
Now, Brian, last week we had another Brian, so this week we got two Jeffs. So
that's exactly what I was just getting ready to say.
You have to say Jeff G or, call me something
Jeff
else.
B.
Or just say Doc,
Yeah, Doc. There we go.
So, Jeff, man, you are the baseball celebrity. And just wanted to talk to you about, growing up. I mean, you played high school, college. Tell us about how all that went down.
Well, local boy here in Billings, and came up through the Little League ranks and into Legion baseball. We don't have high school baseball here in Montana. One of the few states that doesn't have high school baseball. So we have Legion baseball. So I played for the Billings Scarlets, and through that organization and places we played, I was able to get enough exposure, and Stanford somehow found me and got a scholarship, and that was a no-brainer, really. One of the few no-brainer things in life, I guess, was to go there.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I forgot that you grew up through the Scarlet, the Legion baseball, because it's the Scarlets and the Royals, right?
That's correct. Yep.
And we were talking the other day, and of course I'm going to forget now, and my wife will probably kill me, but her uncle, the field is named after.
One of the
Pertz.
Legion fields here is Pertz Field. Yes,
right.
That's correct. And we use that as a practice and a game field as needed for the A-ball players, but our AA teams play down at Dealer Park.
Gotcha. And you had some association with him?
He was my pitching coach, yeah. And he was pitching coach all the way back to Dave McNally. And, I mean, Joe was around forever. Great guy, and, certainly lives in memory of a lot of different players that have come through Billings for sure.
Yeah, Brian, he's a well-known, he's passed away now, but he was my wife's cousin, uncle, something on her side of the family. But one of the pro pitchers, which I think was Dave, during the World Series was having some pitching issues, and he goes into the dugout and he calls Joe Pierce, because he knew he'd be watching him on the phone, to get some help.
Which wouldn't be surprising. Joe and Dave had a great relationship, and as Joe did with a lot of his pitchers.
Yeah, he did. He seemed like people kind of really appreciated him. So Stanford, man, it says 1998 you were inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Which was, really of all of the baseball type accomplishments that I was fortunate enough to, experience in my career. I think being inducted to the Stanford Hall of Fame was certainly something that was very special to me, and I was surprised, and it was a great honor that Stanford bestowed on me for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I mean, that's a major accomplishment, especially at that level of ball. And from what I'm reading here, it said you held the all-time record for wins, strikeouts, and innings pitched, and that was for more than 20 years.
Well, the funny thing about records a lot of times is that they tend to be because you played longer than everybody else, right? So
Gotcha.
Longevity records. A lot of times at Stanford, especially since my time and up until now, typically pitchers that are or players in general that are highly sought after by Major League Baseball, they would only play through their junior year. So my records really held on for a long time because anybody that was competing for them signed after the junior year, so they played like 3 years, and I stayed there 4, so I got a whole year of extra time. So, but I'll take them. My name's still on the board, I think. So, I'll let that stand, and it certainly was a great time of my life. I loved Stanford, everything that it offered, from the academics all the way through the sports. Got to meet a lot of wonderful people in and around Stanford, as well as my classmates and teammates there. Still have some really close bonds with people that I met out there, for sure.
Yeah, hey, Jeff, I was just curious. So now you're in college. How did you wind up in the major leagues? I mean, did you get recruited? How did that all go down?
You get drafted. I was drafted actually out of high school here in Billings, but declined to sign. Was way more excited to go to Stanford than the little Peasley signing bonus I would have got out of here to play. And that was with the Milwaukee Brewers. And then when I got to Stanford, I was drafted by the Orioles after my junior year, but really was more interested in getting my degree. I wasn't a high enough draft pick to really leave school early. So I stayed for one more year. The Orioles still liked what they saw, so they drafted me again in much higher round than I was my junior year. So I signed with them after my senior year. And it's just a process that you go through with the Major League Draft. And there are people that sign as free agents, but typically you're signed more often by being drafted by a Major League Baseball team. And then you get into the minor leagues, and you're like everybody else then. You're just working your way up and trying to excel in your sport, and hopefully you do well enough to keep jumping up levels. And fortunately, I came out of college, played in a very good Pac-6 conference, as they called it back then, because it was just the Arizona, LA, and then Cal and Stanford were the 6 schools that were in a conference, but a very very competitive deal. Played against Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, the list goes on in college. So they were all of my years. When I was at Stanford. So a lot of competition. So if you're successful there, you got a great chance to be pretty successful in the minor league baseball and have a chance to move up. And that's certainly what I experienced.
Now, when you you go into the minor league baseball, how long did it take you to get onto the major league?
For me, I was lucky. It was a year and a half.
Oh,
so
wow.
Really fast. And I started off and played 1 year in Newark, New York, one summer, I should say, which was right after I graduated. That was only about 2 months. Really put up some really strong numbers. I think something like a 1.4 ERA, was 10-1 for the summer, and I got invited to instructional league that fall, which is really something that is a nice thing to get invited to, and not everybody gets to experience that, especially their first year. And instructional league is just something that the organizations put together in the fall for their top prospects. You go down to Florida for a few weeks and you work on maybe some specific item. And for me, I needed to work on a changeup. I hadn't really developed a very good changeup at that point. I was relying on my other pitches to be successful at that rookie level. But they were like, if you're going to move anywhere, you need to develop a changeup. So instructional league was huge as far as my development went, and went down there that fall. And then the next year I got invited to big league camp for spring training, which I was shocked. But, just so excited. And then just one thing led to another. That next summer, I started in A-ball, was there for about 2 months, maybe 3 months, put up some really strong numbers, got promoted then to Double-A, was there for about 6 weeks in Double-A, got a pitch against Bo Jackson. He was the big name that comes to mind.
Wow,
and
yeah.
then at the end of the season, which was towards the end of August, our Triple-A team in Rochester, New York, was vying for the playoffs, and so they promoted me up to AAA, and I got up there and pitched one game before the end of the season, and then I got a start in the playoffs.
Wow.
So I got 2 starts in AAA before the season ended, and then the next year was back in big league camp, and then pitched it for about a month in AAA, and this would have been 1987. Pitched for about a month in AAA, and then was called up to the big leagues in May. And that was a whole new world.
Oh,
I'll bet. That was a whole new world, and it wasn't pretty.
Did you ever think when you were in high school, was your goal to play Major League Baseball?
I kind of lived in my own world, I think, or times were different. It could be a combination of both. But, yeah, it was a goal and a dream. What kid wouldn't want to play Major League Baseball? I think now it's so much more of a driver for kids. They see it. They see the celebrity. They see the stage that professional sports is on. And they're like, I want to do that. I want to do that. For me, I just playing, and I'm going to college. It's just what I thought. I'm going to college. I didn't think much about getting drafted out of high school. It just wasn't the talk. And so we got to go to college, and then you start having a little more awareness about the draft, because you're around players from maybe it's because I was from Montana,
right?
But now I'm with players California and all over the country who identified more with maybe Major League Baseball or professional sports than I did coming from Billings. But it's just kind of funny. Things just kind of stair-stepped for me, and I would say just one thing led to another, and you just ride the wave.
Yeah, and I think I want to encourage young people. Obviously, being a professional athlete is a great goal, and you should strive for that. But if you get an opportunity, stay in college, because for most of us athletes, that professional career is not very long lived, and I don't think you make a whole lot of money until you get to a certain point.
Yeah, you really don't. I mean, it's I forget what the percentage is. It's like, of all the people signed to get a chance to play professional baseball, it's less than 3% actually get to the big leagues. I think it's less than 1% that actually stay for very long. Right. Meaning that you get a cup of coffee and a couple games. That's not even the 3%. The less than 1% are the guys that have some sort of career in Major League Baseball. So it's pretty much of a long shot. Not that you shouldn't try it, but college gives you a great backup. That's for sure.
Good.
Hey, well, Jeff, we need to go ahead and take a break. When we get back, I want to pick up on a couple things. Let's talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart: is performance and mindset, and then let's talk about life after baseball.
Hey everybody, I'm Billy Gordon. I'm one of the coaches for the Heights Wrestling Club. I just wanted to take a minute and talk to you about EFX Sports and what their products have done for me and my wrestlers and the athletes that I lead. 6 months ago, I got introduced to EFX Sports and I immediately started using them myself. The results have been nothing short of amazing. My body fat and weight have come down drastically. My strength has increased. If you get the opportunity, I highly recommend you give it a shot.
This is Dr. Jeff Galini of All American Pharmaceutical. I'm sure you've been seeing our national brand EFX Sports featuring Carbolin and Crealkalin all around the state lately. Our supplements are formulated for pros to high schoolers to just the average gym goer and are all about improving your game. You can find EFX Sports in Billings at Yellowstone Fitness, Lucky's, Bonanza's Health Food, Granite Fitness, and GNC, just to mention a few.
Do you know how to properly use carbohydrates to ignite your performance in the field and in the gym? You will now, thanks to this free book by EFX Sports. The Carb User's Guide for Maximum Performance reveals why omitting carbohydrates from your diet can totally crush your gains. Ever wonder how many grams you need for your specific sport? Not anymore. We give you the critical number you need to dominate your competition. You'll even discover the super carb that's taking the athletic world by storm. You must try it to believe it. Go to getcarbolin.com/carb guide today and get your copy absolutely free. Once again, it's getkarbolin.com/CARBGUIDE.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We've got Jeff. And, I talked about before the break, picking up on a couple of subjects here. What I want to talk about is, again, you're at the top of your game. What does it take? I want to talk about your mental mindset, to be a champion and to endure what you have to put your body through. And then what does it take on the performance end, nutrition, whatever supplementation you might have had, the training? What does that really look like?
Well, I wish that I could go back now with the knowledge that I have today and redo my career on all those fronts that you just mentioned. And, my time period of the late 80s going into the 90s was really at the very beginning of when people were starting to pay attention to, maybe diets and supplements and things that you would need to do to maybe help your career and athletic performance. Really back then it was like, well, before you pitch, you better get some carbohydrates in you because so I'll eat some pasta because I'm going to need some energy tonight, and
Right.
and I should probably get a good night of sleep, so I probably shouldn't drink tonight, and so I mean it was pretty, and the baseball world was completely different. Unfortunately, I was at the very beginning. My career was at the really very beginning of the performance-enhancing drugs that really became the big story through the 90s and into the 2000s in Major League Baseball. I wasn't personally exposed to it where someone's saying, hey, you should try these, but I saw it, and you knew the players that were doing it just through word of mouth. It was, obviously, it was pretty obvious just looking how their bodies were transforming to everybody. But we didn't have even any strength coaches when I first got to the big leagues. We had a trainer that would take us out to stretch us, do a couple hamstring toe touches, curl up a little bit, stretch your back, and then hey, let's go play. Everybody understood about arm health and stuff like that, I think, at the time. But really, towards the end of my Orioles career, which would have been the last year with them was '91, we finally had a strength coach, but even he at the time really wasn't doing a lot of strength training per se. He was there if you wanted it, but I think now it's certainly almost mandatory and the strength coach is a coach in the player's eyes. I think he's putting guys on programs, making sure that they're following certain protocols because it's a long season. And, emotionally, I would say that would be one of the things experience really helps Major League Baseball players with. If you're there and experience it year in and year out, you know how to mentally get through a year. But, man, it is long and it is grueling when you're a rookie and you're not used to that pace, for sure.
Sure. Well, and when you're the pitcher of all things, I mean, you get blamed for everything.
Well, we can give up the long ball and get the fans engaged one way or the other, right?
Right.
So,
Brian, you saw me out there at the Billings Mustang when I brought the heat, man, at the opening pitch.
I think there's a couple of recruiters looking at you.
Man, I brought it, man. I think they timed it at slow and persistent.
Slow and slower.
Although they had a good catcher, man, because the last game I hit the dirt. But I was trying to change up too, so.
There you go. Well, you're on our product, so you got to be good.
That's right.
So, I said real quickly about the mental aspect. What does it take to be at that level and to just day in, day out go through the grind? I mean, you're starting to get a little fame, noticed by the fans, and, that can really mess some people up. And other guys just seem to just hold it all together and have a really good career.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to be said about that. I think it's easy to get caught up in the life of a Major League Baseball player or any professional athlete, and I think it ends up being detrimental to most. There's some that's how they need to be to probably perform at the level that makes them good. But most people, the focus is really the key. One of the things I remember coming back home in the winter after I'd been in the big leagues, I think my first year, and got to sit down with Dave McNally, whose son and I were best friends, but Dave was also a coach of mine and a mentor, certainly, and somebody locally that I could go talk to about my experience, since he was such an icon from the Oriole days. That he made a comment to me about, wow, they really play hard, don't they? And I started thinking about it. I was like, surprisingly enough, I don't think people appreciate for how hard the athletes play at the Major League Baseball level. I think sometimes they see some guys jog to first because they know it's an out, and they're like, But if you really start watching the game from a player's perspective, and you're sitting down, in the dugout, ground floor for every game, you start really seeing the intensity that your teammates and the other players are bringing day in and day out. And if you cannot get yourself into that zone, and you cannot get yourself to focus and prepare day in and day out to try to perform at your best, I think you get swallowed up by the whole process. And it's easy to talk about and harder to do. And I think that's one of those things you talk about, the it factor, and trying to figure out who has it and who doesn't. It is a natural gift to some degree. I think some people are just better at it than others, and I think those are the ones that survive and have a long career in any major league sport, in professional sport, right, at the top level.
Well, it's interesting because Dr. Jeff alluded to this. He talked about, he said, hey, if you're a younger person, stay in school, get an education. And people forget, let me go back. A lot of people think, hey, I've hit the big leagues. This is it. I'm done. And it's like, wait a minute. There's a shelf life to this game here. I mean, you're going to have to think beyond where are you going to be in 10 years? Where are you going to be in 20 years? What if you get injured? So let's talk about life after baseball. It sounds like you prepared yourself for that.
Well, yeah, and it happened quick. I was unfortunate. I was still playing and planning on continuing to play, and I had a bad car wreck in January '95 that cut my career short. And I don't know how long it cut it short, but it certainly cut it short a year or two. And I had to make a decision. Prior to that, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I was thinking that I could get into announcing, or I could be, the color commentator, or something to do with the television. I'm not sure I really was cut out to be a coach. So you have all these thoughts that are going through your mind. But my degree from Stanford was in geophysics, and my family is an oil business family. My dad's had a company here in Billings since the year I was born. And, I always kind of had that in my mind as a fallback that, I should prepare in case I need, to work in the oil business, and that's why I majored in geophysics and kind of prepared me. Well, when my career ended, I needed to make a decision. But my father really is a great man, and he he said something. It was one of these father-son moments. As I was healing up, I'm in my neck brace and sitting on the couch and from the car wreck, and he says to me one night, he says, well, I know you're trying to decide what you want to do with the rest of your career or the rest of your life, he said, but I just want to let you know that we have a position for you down at Ballard Petroleum if it's something you're interested in doing, and it would please me to no end to have both of my sons working with me, and because my brother also works at Ballard Petroleum. So the key word there was with, and that's how my father, I think, really defines him. It's everybody working together. It's a family atmosphere type company. He didn't say for, he didn't say I'll be your boss. He said with, and it really hit home. And I right then I just made the decision that's what I want to do. And so, and I'm really happy I did. I love it here in Billings. It's been a really great place for me to be. I finally found my wife here, and we have a couple of young kids, keeping me young. I'm a little old for a 6 and a 3-year-old, but it's working great, and I couldn't be happier. It's been a great place for me to be. Absolutely.
And you're also got yourself involved with the high school baseball program now. That's correct.
I've been the chairman of the Legion baseball program here in Billings since, gosh, how many years now? 14, I think, 13 or 14 years. I think I've helped provide some stability to the program. I think all nonprofit youth sports organizations come with a degree of difficulty,
Sure.
And we're no different than anybody else. But we've had a lot of kids go on to get college scholarships. We've had a lot of kids grow up playing baseball for us that have gone on and are out in the working world and with college degrees and doing well in their lives, and we've had a few kids actually get drafted and try the minor league route. And so it's a great organization here in Billings. It really is. It takes a lot of hard work from a lot of different people, but it's been an honor for me to actually kind of be the point guy on it.
Yeah, and it's a great program. It's well respected. Kids really take a lot of pride in it, and they do well. You got introduced to EFX Sports.
I did. Tour last week, man.
Had to throw that in,
Yeah, I know. At All American Pharmaceutical.
He's on the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's right. My wife and I came down and took a tour here last week, and I was just amazed. It's a great company you've built, Jeff. It's really amazing to see, automation at that level. I've never seen specific, handcrafted automation of all the products you make and produce here. But I also was amazed at the the level of detail that you have prepared your company, the cleanliness and all the levels of security that need to go on in your world. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, as an athlete, we never retire. So when I retired from playing sports, this kind of became my new sport. And what do we want to do? We want to be the best, perform the best. So that's kind of what we strive for. And we're going to be discussing Carbolin for the kids here.
That's right.
Next season.
That's right.
So
it's going to be great, and I think it's going to be a good ability, good use for our kids. And the Carbolin's a great product. I love the flavor of it. It certainly does what it needs to do, and as well as a lot of your other stuff. Hey, I'm about ready to venture into getting real here.
Oh yeah, you get all the good stuff, man. The test
Yep.
charge. Well, hey, I want to thank you so much for coming on today, and we thank you for listening to EFX Sports, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to ESPN EFX Sports Radio. Be sure to check out EFX Sports online at aaefx.com. And don't forget to check out EFX Sports supplements everywhere fitness products are sold.